We were very excited to have the chief economist of the Denver branch of the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, Mark Sneed, as the keynote speaker during the summit. He had much to say, beginning with what's needed for the economy to recover. Mark also talked about the employment conditions. He also talked about how Americans are spending and saving, and also what the risks are to the recovery of the economy. Take a listen.
First, 2010 was a lot better than 2009. We actually recovered in terms of output. But you see the soft spot in the economy in the second quarter of 2010. This is exactly what changed the conversation. The double dip discussion began again. And since then, though, we've had additional Federal Reserve stimulus. We've seen additional momentum in the economy. The growth number for the fourth quarter of last year was revised down from 3 to 2.8%, but nonetheless, momentum is still there. And you'll notice for the first quarter, the quarter we're in at this very moment, the tracking estimates are suggesting something over 3.2%. And I'll tell you, until the snowstorms in January, it was more like 3.8%. The world seemed to have changed coming out of January 1st. In a broad variety of sectors, everything seemed to gain momentum. If you look at a consensus forecast across a large group of economists, 3.5% growth, and going forward for all of 11, about 3.5%, and in 2012, about 3.2% growth. So we're back to normal growth, which is the first part of this argument. It's been very difficult to tell when the cycle ended in Colorado. Well, I'm telling you right now, publicly, it ended roughly the end of the second quarter of 2010. Hard bottom. It's over. Recession's over in Colorado. If you're in real estate, you may not be feeling that bottom, but hard bottom. Now, two things here. As I said, sales tax revenue will always be the single best indicator we have. When you have a change in employment and sales tax revenue, you know it's over. The problem is there have been consistent errors in Colorado's job data. We're going to get revisions here in a few weeks, and the revisions are going to say 2009 was actually worse than we thought it was. 2010 was a lot better than we thought it was. The hard bottom, again, is somewhere around the end of the second quarter. And it is clearly over on most data points. Given the current structure of the world, it looks like this is fairly normal job recovery. So I said we need normal economic growth. We have momentum. We need job growth. And the labor force, I'm showing you both U.S. and Colorado here. If you look at the 90s data, you see where Colorado was consistently below the U.S. State got hit hard, very hard in the 2001 recession, sort of converged at that point, and then the state started doing a little better in 07 and 08, and then we took it on the chin again in this recession. And you'll notice in the latest data, Colorado's unemployment rate continues to creep up, U.S. data continues to creep down. And there's no simple answer for this, but there are two key elements. One is the U.S. drop is probably exaggerated and will be revised upward. And what I would suggest for Colorado is that the 2009 data is understated and will probably be revised upward. And after you put revisions in these two, they're probably going to look much more similar. This is just a natural process of data correction over time. And you're going to find that Colorado looked very US-like in this recession. That is, when we do the post-evaluation in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, Colorado will look very national-like, which is bleak. We took it on the chin in a big way. Let's go to debt and savings, because we have strong income growth. We're back to roughly 5%. We're spending at a pretty good clip. How is it possible we cut debt and save more? Well, the answer is it is possible. You just balance it. And in this case, I'll start with the savings rate. Bounce from the 1% range. On a monthly basis, we got close to zero, but we bounced back to the 5 to 6% range. Is that normal? Well, I would argue that given as low an interest rate environment as we have, there's no way we're going to be able to maintain 5 to 6% savings. It likely will pull back more in the 3 to 4% range. But at the same time, debt is slowly declining as a percentage of income. This is one of the troubling dimensions. This is not happening quickly. What I want to make clear, though, is where the debt is. You have to be very clear about this. It is not credit card debt. It is mortgage debt. Now, what you would argue is that a lot of this equity was pulled out and put on the mortgage side of the ledger rather than credit cards, but nonetheless, the cleanup will have to occur on the mortgage side. It is not the credit card side. It is not. It roughly is equal to historical averages of debt relative to income. And we've gone from about 115% of income back down to roughly 1-to-1, but this is roughly double the historical levels. I'll tell you what's interesting is one of the factors suggesting that the economy will continue to show strength is that most major forecasting houses expect debt to about this point, roughly first quarter this year, second quarter this year, debt to begin resuming a rise again. And in the latest data, we're beginning to see that.
And now for more outstanding properties marketed exclusively by Coldwell Banker right here in Colorado.